Hello everybody, welcome to my story time video of my adventure with the Massachusetts Department of Motor Vehicles in 1995. Now, this story is going to be about a state bureaucracy. The Department of Motor Vehicles is run by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, not a federal bureaucracy, but you will recognize some things that sound familiar. If you've already done your textbook reading about bureaucracies, you'll see some of the same qualities and attributes surrounding my story. So anyway, back in 1995, I had freshly graduated from Bradford College and I got my degree in political science, and I was 25 years old and I was moving into an apartment in Boston because I was moving on to law school. I went to law school for 3 years, and some of you might know that I was a practicing attorney for over a decade before I got into teaching. So anyway, this particular weekend, it was the weekend before Labor Day weekend back in 1995. It was a heat wave. I was trying to move into an apartment, which is enough of a pain in the neck. There were traffic jams everywhere because everybody moves into Boston that weekend that's going to school there. And I suddenly realized in the midst of all of this, oh no, I still have my New Hampshire license, not my Massachusetts license. And I'm going to need that for a number of reasons, mostly for things to do with school and financial aid and things like that. So I had my New Hampshire license because I had moved back in with my dad my final year of college to save some money, and I had to set off to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get it changed back to Massachusetts. So it was only a 5 or 10 minute walk from my apartment, which isn't that big of a deal, except it was a heat wave, and I had been out socializing the night before, if you know what I mean, so I didn't feel so great and I felt a little dehydrated. And I wasn't too happy to see that I had to wait 1.5 hours in line. But I thought I was all set because I had my birth certificate, my New Hampshire license, and a copy of my lease, right? So you'd think I would be all set. But no, I get up to the window, and this lady who looks like Roz from Monsters, Inc., looked and sounded like her, told me, oh no, darling, sorry, you need some sort of bill from your apartment in order to get your license switched over. You have to prove residency. And what I had wasn't enough, and you had to have certain documents from certain categories. So I wasn't happy, but you know, that's life. I sucked it up, gathered up my stuff, walked back to my apartment. My friends weren't happy that I had been, missing, running errands, and wasn't helping them move, but I explained, the DMV is going to close soon, and it's going to be Labor Day weekend soon, and I need this before the weekend passes. So they were nice and just stayed and continued to help me out. And I did get a utility bill for my apartment because my roommate and I split the utilities. So I grabbed the utility bill. I think it was an electric bill. I don't even remember what it was. And so I went back to the Department of Motor Vehicles and waited in line for an hour and a half again. And when they finally called my number and I went back up to the window, I was kind of bummed out it wasn't Roz from Monsters, Inc. again, because I wanted to prove to her, yes, I do live in Massachusetts, I live in Boston. But this young lady was a little bit friendlier, and she was very sad to inform me, oh no, this is not enough documentation to show that you live in Massachusetts, even though I don't know who's trying to pull this scam that they live in Massachusetts or Boston. But anyway, she told me I needed another, sort of document from another category. I don't remember how she explained it, but it turned out that I needed a bank book. And I told her, I don't have any bank accounts here in Massachusetts. I'm a broke college student. So what I remembered is I had $40 in my pocket. I was going to buy my friends beer and pizza. Yes, back in 1995, that would buy a whole crew of your friends beer and pizza. So I decided to run across the street to a bank and open a savings account with 20 bucks of that money. And now not only was I going to look missing in action to my friends, but I was going to look like I was really cheap too. But you do what you got to do. So I opened up the bank account, so now I had all the right kind of documentation. And while I was waiting in line at the bank, I made sure to double check all the bureaucratic rules of the DMV to make sure I had all my documents. So I finally go back, my third time in line, and I had to wait another 2 hours. And who can I see at the window ready to call my number but Roz from Monsters, Inc. So I'm creeping up closer and closer to the window, standing in line. We were all mushed together. This was ages before the coronavirus. All sweaty and smushed together with no air conditioning. And I see the clock getting closer and closer to 4 o'clock when they were going to close. And sure enough, Roz was starting to pull the thing down, you know, the little thing that blocked the window to show that they were closed for business for the day. And I was the last one in line and the only one that was due to be bumped out of service before they closed for the day. And I was ready to start crying, but Roz saw me. She took pity on me, and she saw all my documents, and she finally gave me my license. And by that point, I had not even had a sip of water, a bite of food. I was turning green. I was so dehydrated. If I wasn't ready to cry, I was ready to faint. But I left with my license. And then my dad showed up to help us and got us all pizza and beer. So it ended up being a success. So that's my story time. DMV, 1995. And now you're going to go on to the discussion board and see what kind of qualities of bureaucracies that you read about were present in my story time.